Hi everyone and welcome to a quick review of the 2018 Maserati Granturismo Sport that you see behind me. Why are we looking at this car? Hasn't it been around for a while? Yeah, 2007. It's completing 10 years, but it's going to go on for a bit longer. And in order to do that, they've given it a little bit of an update, both exterior changes and interior changes. So let's have a look at those. So as you can see, the main change is here at the front with this grille, which before used to be a bit more of a very well defined oval shape, but now has a little bit of a kink in it, and more of a hexagonal shape. So whereas before it was sort of going ooh, it's now going, and perhaps a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more of a sort of a shark nose attitude to it. But I'm not sure if I like it more than the old one, but it does work well with this body shape. New front air vents as well, and of course the lower spoiler and splitter there, that's all new, it's been reprofiled, and the headlights too are new. And there's two models, of course. There's the Sport, which is this one, and there's the MC. The MC, I think, gets a black back tint on the headlights, but they have daytime running lights on those now as well. It still has the same drivetrain, but the MC Stradale is gone, the 4.2 is gone, 4.7 remains with the 454 brake horsepower and the 0 to 100 in about 4.6 seconds. That's all you get now. And also you don't get the old style automatic transmission, of course no manuals. You only now get the ZF. So it's got very much the same hugely recognizable and extremely sexy profile that the Grandtourismo has always been known for, and pretty much unchanged really. The splitter maybe stands out a little bit more, but really not a lot of changes. I mean, it's instantly recognizable, but of course that's not to say that that's a bad thing, because it is still I maintain an absolutely gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous, jaw-droppingly beautiful car. At the rear again the bumper and the lower part of the rear has been changed, but not many changes elsewhere on the car. And you know, it remains about as practical as it ever was, which is to say that not very. And in this particular case, the rather small boot is taken up with a spare wheel and a wheel cover, although I did manage to get a wee shopping in there, so you know, I can't complain too much. Little grab handles here to close what is actually quite a heavy boot. There's a big old woofer there on the back valance there, with two speakers on this side. The logo, as ever, on the Trident logo from Maserati. There's the alarm's going off because the key's in there. The seat moves forward, there you go, automatically. Once you pull that lever, it then slides forward by itself. The rear looks very inviting, but of course isn't, because it's a bit tight for normal adults, although it's beautifully finished there. And in the back here, if you can hear me above that, it's quite clever, because they actually have put two USBs in there. So even if you can't put, well, I suppose you can put children in the back here, but if you can't put adults, at least you can run extra cables. They do get their own AC vents as well, and cup holders, and an armrest. So, you know, they've thought about it, and they have actually got Isofix child seat anchor points in here as well. So they have thought about this as a sort of semi-family car, but that's about it. So once that seat goes back into place, as it's doing now, let's get in the front and show you the other big changes to the car, which are in the front. And I've closed the door now, so that alarm has gone off. That's basically saying the key is still in there. And believe it or not, no starter button, but an actual key that goes into an actual ignition barrel. So inside here, let me move my jacket out of the way, because again the seats are beautiful to behold, as they always are. You know, they're prettier to look at than they are comfortable to sit in, but that's always been the case, let's be honest. This is all very familiar. Let's start it up, yeah, shall we? So that's in normal mode. I'm just going to put that into sports. There's a sports button there. Can't find an extra button just for the exhaust now, so it's either sports mode for everything or not. Maybe the MC will have a sports button for the exhaust. I'm not sure, I'll have to confirm that. But I seem to remember that there was one before where you could put it into sports to get the louder exhaust. I'm not 100% sure about that. I'll have to double check. But you have to do that in order to get the sports exhaust, which of course you have to press, which of course means that you then have a different ride as well, which around town it can be a little bit jiggly. The main difference here, of course, in the interior is this. It's this 8.4 inch screen, which they've now taken from the, you know, the new generation of Maseratis, the Levant, what is it, the Ghibli and the Quattroporte. but particularly Levant, I think, has this actual interface on it, and that's where they've taken this from. And of course, it is so much better than what they used to be. All your settings and everything are in here. It's so much more intuitive to use. I mean, you know, before, the interior of this car was a little bit of a hodgepodge, a confusing mishmash of controls and buttons, and every time I got into one, I still found it a little bit confusing to use. Beautiful clock there with now a second dial just in the middle there, which is quite nice. Although the buttons still remain, I mean, the dual zone climate control is all buttons. It's not on the screen, it's only down here. And, you know, but fortunately, it's not too complicated. Here you have lock unlock and the hazard button there. There you've got the sports button, ice, which we don't get, so that's no problem. And the parking, I think that's parking aids, and the traction control button. ZF transmission, as I mentioned, and here you have a menu system. There's the rotary knobs for the menu, which is basically for that. So you can go into this and go up and down and all the rest of it. But to be honest, it's kind of redundant because this is a touchscreen and the touchscreen works really well. And by the way, it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto for countries where that works. So actually that works really well also. Electronic parking brake, there's your indicator for that thing. Cup holders down here. And a cubby box with a power supply, SD card, aux, and a USB. So they've thought of these things. Little light in there as well, I think. It's handy. And at the front here, it's quite familiar. These controls are very familiar. These layout, this instant panel layout is very familiar. And again, that very odd, you know, 20 to 50 to 80 to 110. I mean, you know, you lose your license with that speedometer. But fortunately, the speed does come up on there as well. And you can change that as well with a button, which I've now got confused about where that button is. Is it that one? There you go. And then that gives you the trip computer stuff as well. RPM indicator. We'll have the RPM indicator because we like to do a bit of this. Has to be done right. This is a Maserati and it does sound awesome. It's got very obvious volume control and channel change there, but it's got buttons on the back which are very confusing, which also operate the sound system. It's got the fixed paddles. Can you see them? Fixed paddles there. There you go. Big old paddles up and down. But with the transmission being as good as it is, we don't really need to use them very much. So talking of that, let's just take it for a little drive. So just a little drive, I think, because to be honest, not a lot has changed in this car. I've done a few kilometers in it. I think about 300 plus kilometers in the car. Very easy with the new gearbox, of course, which was introduced in the last model as well. I think you only got that crazy semi-automatic half manual style gearbox in the MC Stradale version anyway, so they had actually taken it out of the other cars. So now you only get the ZF transmission, which is so much smoother. Steering is quite heavily weighted. Actually, let's give you a few more. Should we do a few more blips, because it just still sounds unbelievable. Sounds to die for. You would buy this car just for that sound. You know, and that's why you would keep it in sports mode all the time and put up with the ride, because you'd be like, yeah, but I want to hear the engine. And around town it can be a little bit quieter if you're going to put it in a normal mode. Steering is a little bit heavy compared to modern standards. The brakes need a little bit more encouragement, again, compared to modern standards. And I think the fact that I've used that phrase twice already compared to modern standards actually says a lot about this car, because despite the updates, despite the refresh, this car has been around over a decade, and honestly speaking, I've got to say, it's, you know, and I love this car. I've always loved the Grandtourismo. I would have one in a heartbeat, but it is beginning to feel its age. I mean, the controls are not quite there anymore. The dynamics of the car also aren't quite in keeping. I mean, I think they've toned it down a little bit. They've made sure that it's safe understeer rather than the MC Stradale, which is a bit more pointy and darty. It is a Grandtourismo, it is a Grand Tourer, and they've sort of been a bit more mindful of that. I'm surprised then that it's a bit incongruous that they haven't made the steering feel lighter, if they're going for that sort of thing. But it is a very easy car to drive generally, and you know, won't catch you out. The power delivery is very linear, very smooth. It doesn't sort of come in all over it doesn't give you a bundle of torque or anything like that, so you won't get into any kind of trouble. You have to go searching for it. It is well balanced, it does handle very well, the grip is there, there's no issues regarding that, the acceleration is there, you have to work at it a little bit. And overall, it's very, very familiar to drive if you've had a Granturismo, if you've driven one before. So if you have a Granturismo and you're looking to just upgrade, then you might as well do it, because you get the better interior electronics and all the infotainment system. Stereo's quite nice as well. AC's okay. So for that purpose, you would just go for it, and it wouldn't really be much different from what you're used to in terms of the drive compared to the previous generations of this car. But if you're stepping out of something a little bit more modern and a little bit more contemporary, then you might well think to yourself, yeah, why am I buying an older car? Because it does have that now a little bit, honestly speaking. So there you go. Still has incredible dollops of style, sex appeal, and sheer damn charisma. And it simply sounds awesome. It's a car that you would still kill to have, because it's just so sexy and so desirable. And as I've always said about Maserati, it stands out different. It makes a statement. You didn't just go with the obvious thing and buy yourself a Ferrari or Lamborghini. You made a maverick choice and you went for a Maserati. It makes you cooler. That's the thing about a Maserati, and that's why I've always liked them. That's why I still like this car. I still love this car, but I have to say it is beginning to feel, well, actually is not beginning, it is feeling its age. And I think a new version or a new generation of this car can't come soon enough, which is to say that the existing models and the older models of this car are going to pass into classic status, I reckon, because they are such beautiful and awesome cars that I think that in times to come from now, we are all going to be desiring these cars in the future. And when they come down to reasonable prices, i.e. not the $500,000 dirhams that you're going to pay for a new one of these, then you will all be going, might be worth thinking about that. Make sure you've got cast iron warranty though. Anyway, that's all for our very brief review of the 2018 Maserati Granturismo Sport. Hope you enjoyed that. Do please follow us, motoringme.com. Check us out on all social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all the rest of it. Of course, you can follow me as well, just also on Instagram. That would be nice. Just follow me there. That'd be good. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for watching. Until the next one.